want to tell you something that you almost definitely do not know about me. Is that for 15 years of my life, I spent many, many hours a week playing the French horn. And I was never a good French horn player. In fact, I was always quite a poor French horn player. But because French horn is such a rare instrument to play, when I was in high school and also afterwards in college and even after college, then I was always in demand to play in all the different orchestras and ensembles and quintets that there were, because everyone was always looking for a French horn player. So I enjoyed playing playing French horn. I enjoyed playing in different groups. And something that was really nice was practicing and working hard and rehearsing a lot, and then getting to the day of the performance. Play beautifully and hopefully without mistakes, and afterwards the people in the audience, would come up to me and say that was so inspiring, thank you so much, it was such an uplifting evening, thank you. So one time when I was in college, I had a very different performance experience. I was asked to perform in the pit orchestra of our college musical, which that year was Oklahoma, and so basically, for weeks and weeks and weeks, I was, coming every evening after all of my classes were over and whatever. I would come and play in the pit orchestra. The pit orchestra, it actually is an actual pit underneath the stage, so no one from the audience can see you. You're in a pit and playing the music. So the French horn actually has quite a few important solos in the performance of Oklahoma, in the musical of Oklahoma. And as I said, I wasn't an especially good French horn player, so it required a lot of extra practicing on my part. And then finally, after weeks and weeks of preparation, we finally got to the night of the performance. And the Bowdoin College Theater was full. It was packed. So there were hundreds and hundreds of people there. And I was in the pit orchestra. And that night, I put in a stellar performance. I played the solos, and I knew that, when I was in high school, many times I had sung in the chorus of the school musical. And I knew, okay, being in the chorus, it's fun, and, get to put in, a costume and be on stage in front of everyone. But the thing is, if you're in the chorus, it doesn't really matter. If you show up, if you don't show up, it doesn't really matter. But being the French horn player and the performance of Oklahoma in the pit orchestra, I knew, without me, the show wouldn't go on. I was the melody, I was playing the solo together with the star on stage. I was important, I was keeping the show going. So then, I had a bit of a shock when, after the performance, I left, I packed up my French horn. I was still wearing my special black clothing from the pit orchestra, and I was leaving the show, leaving the theater, and all of my classmates who had been in the chorus, they were dressed up as cowboys and cowgirls, and all of their friends, all of our classmates were coming up to them and saying, you were amazing, thank you so much, it was great, I loved it, you were incredible, and giving them flowers and big hugs, and me, with my French horn case in all black, I was thinking, maybe someone will recognize me as the French horn player, but nobody did. There was no recognition, no thank you, no hug, no roses, no nothing. I remember just leaving and going out that night, and going back to my dorm room, and just thinking, never again. That was so disappointing. I don't want ever to play in another pit orchestra again. What an awful experience to do something so important and to not get any recognition from anybody. It's too much. I don't want to do it. So, and I kept my word. I never played in another pit orchestra again. So I'm talking about this, of course, because just yesterday I was thinking about how being a mom, it's like being in the pit orchestra of life. Without us moms, the Jewish people would cease to exist. Without us, there wouldn't be Jewish families. Without us, we are the glue holding the Jewish people together. Without us, without Jewish moms, the show does not go on. But we're in the pit orchestra. Whatever we did before we were moms, or whatever we're doing now, in addition to motherhood, then chances are, you're still getting recognition. You're getting, when you were in university or whatever job you have outside of being a mom, the chances are, you occasionally get a raise, you get a promotion, you get a pat on the back from your supervisor, for a job well done. As a mom, we're doing something so important. And very rarely, very, very rarely, we are most of the time, we are playing in the pit orchestra of the Jewish people. That's the Jewish mom. So how do we stay motivated? How do we keep ourselves, happy and motivated so that we don't, just want to leave all this pit orchestra behind like I did after my one experience, playing in the musical of Oklahoma. So this past week, my teacher, her Rabbani Yemima Mizrahi, said something very interesting. She was quoting her Rav Volbe, who explains that he says, what is the source of sadness? What is the source of sadness in life? He says the source of sadness in all situations is hester panim, when God's face is hidden from us. When we feel like we're down there in that pit orchestra and no one sees us and God doesn't see us either, when we are totally in like an existential void and nowhere, nothing, no one sees us, and God doesn't see us either. And so Rav Volbe teaches something really, really amazing. That every time you say a bracha, every time we say a blessing, then we're supposed to say at least 100 blessings a day, right? So every time you say a blessing, you say Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed are you, God. And every time you say the word Atah, God comes, God joins you. God comes down to your house, down to your kitchen, down to your living room, down like wherever you are, and He's right there with you. He's right there sitting next to you, we're next to the trumpet player in the pit orchestra. God is right there. God's right there with you. So I want to bless all of us that this knowledge that, as we go about our daily lives, maintaining families and maintaining our homes and being the glue that's holding together the Jewish people, enabling the show, the Jewish people to go on, that we should remember that God is right there with us, And that knowledge that God is there with us and that God is getting so much nachas from us, God's getting so much nachas from every Jewish mom, that knowledge should bring us so much joy and so much satisfaction, even though we're in the pit orchestra. I'm going to bless everyone with an amazing, amazing week.